Have you ever been affected by texting and driving? Well, I can tell you that nearly 1.6 million people have been in a crash or been affected by texting and driving. It is also said that mostly teens fall victim to texting and driving. That is all you guys right here. Today I'm going to tell you the effects of texting and driving, the statistics of texting and driving, what age groups are usually affected by texting and driving, and the laws and things that are in place to stop texting and driving. Let's get into the first point, the effects of texting and driving. Texting while driving distracts drivers from the road. A study by Virginia Tech Transportation Institute claimed that drivers who texted behind the wheel were 23 times more likely to be involved in a serious accident compared with drivers who made phone calls, which increased their risk of accident by 6 times. I found that information by techwalla.com. Talking on the phone can take concentration off the road. When a driver looks down at their phone to text, they also take their eyes off the road, which can be very dangerous. If you are driving at 55 miles per hour and take your eyes off the road for an average amount of time it takes, just 5 seconds, you will have zoomed the length of a football field without looking at the road. It's 100 yards. The CDC reports that a distracted driver was a factor in 18% of all injury-causing accidents in 2012. Next, I will talk about the statistics of texting and driving. The National Safety Council reports that cell phone use while driving leads to 1.6 million crashes each year. I found that by edgarsunday.com. Nearly 390,000 injuries occur each year from accidents caused by texting while driving. 1 out of every 4 car accidents in the United States is caused by texting and driving. Texting while driving makes you 6 times more likely to cause an accident rather than drunk driving. Answering a text takes away your attention for about 5 seconds, while if you're going 55 miles an hour, you wouldn't see the road for a total of 100 yards, equivalent to a football field. Texting while driving causes a 400% increase in time spent with eyes off the road. Of cell phone related tasks, texting is by far the most dangerous. 94% of drivers support a ban on texting. 74% of drivers support a ban on handheld cell phone use. 10% of all teen motor vehicle crashes, fatalities in 2016 involved distracted driving. The NHTSA estimates that every day 660,000 drivers use electronic devices while behind the wheel. In 2012 alone, 3,328 people were killed in distracted related crashes. About 421,000 people were injured in those crashes. 11% of drivers were under the age of 20 that were reported at the time of the crash. 1/4 of teenagers respond to at least one text every time they drive. 20% of teens and 10% of parents report having multi-text messages conversations while driving. Nearly half, 48% of drivers admit to answering their cell phone while driving. Of those who answer their phones, 58% of drivers continue to drive while talking on the phone. In the survey, 24% of drivers reported that they are willing to make a phone call while driving, which can make you very distracted. 1 in 10 drivers surveyed that at least sometimes they send text messages or emails while driving. Once in 10 of the drivers surveyed, 14% said they read text messages or emails while driving. You can see that texting and driving is a real problem and should be taken care of. Third, let's talk about the age group texting and driving effects. The age group texting and driving mostly affects would be young adults from ages to 18 to 34, which some of you guys are in that range. More than a quarter of the US adults, 27%, admit to texting while behind the wheel. Teens posted almost identical numbers of 26%. Police say texting and driving is far more dangerous for teens who have far less experience than adults. Adults who say they have driven while on a cell phone clearly outspaces teenagers. The distracted driving poll found 61% of adults said they use a mobile phone while driving versus 43% of teenagers, which ages from 16 to 17. Adults are the most likely to admit they text while driving, compared with age groups 34 to 45 who don't admit to it very much. Several studies have found that teens are more likely to text while driving, hold an ongoing multi-text conversation while behind the wheel. Teenagers comprise a higher risk group of distracted drivers for a number of reasons, not least of which that they are typically much newer drivers in general. 2019 research on texting habits shows that people respond to text messages almost instantly. In fact, 9 of 10 teens expect a reply to text or email within 5 minutes or less. This encourages teens to respond to text while driving. Teens who text and drive spend 10% of their time outside their lane. Teens make up the largest group reported as distracted in fatal crashes. 77% of teens say that adults instruct them not to text or drive, while adults do it themselves. 6% of all drivers involved in fatal crashes were reported as distracted at the time. 8% of the drivers 15 to 19 years old and involved in fatal crashes were reported as distracted. The age group has the largest proportion of drivers who were distracted at the time of the fatal crashes. Through 97% of teens marked agree that texting and driving is very dangerous, but 43% do it anyway. Teens whose parents drive distracted are as much as 2 to 4 times more likely to also drive distracted. More than 58% of teens crash are due to drivers' distractions. Let's get into my fourth topic and final topic, the laws and things that are in place to stop texting and driving. See, right there is a prime example of how that text or phone call took my eyes off of my speech and onto the phone. Right there, you should not be doing that. So the laws and things that are in place to stop texting and driving. Handheld cell phone use ban in 20 states. All cell phone ban. No state bans all cell phone use for drivers, but 38 states and DC ban all cell phone use by teen drivers, and 21 states prohibit any cell phone use for school bus drivers. Text messaging ban. 48 states ban text messaging for all drivers. Missouri prohibits text messaging. Let's get to my conclusion. I hope that my speech could persuade you to never text and drive again. I have told you the effects of texting and driving, the statistics of texting and driving, what age groups texting and driving has the most effect on, and finally, I have told you the laws that try to prevent texting and driving.
Is it gonna work?
No.
Yeah,
It should.
Hey, did you cut it?